Hey guys, Tony here, and today I have been checking out Annihilate The Spance, which is out now on Steam and costs 25 quid. There's also a demo if you want to try it before you buy it. Annihilate The Spance is an RTS base builder set in space, and even though it's called an RTS, I would say it's more of an idle auto battler, and it sells itself with constant production and minimal micromanagement, which I would agree with. It's quite a simple space game. You have a few resources to keep your eye on, there's some mining to do, turrets to place, factories to build, which build units. All the building and battling is done automatically. You don't control units direct, obviously, but you can waypoint them. So how does the gameplay work, and a little bit about the story? Well, there's not a huge story here, but each campaign mission has like a little bit of a story beforehand to explain what you're doing and why you're doing it. And then there's like little bits of story dotted about as you play. But you know, it's not the sort of game where you're going to be fully invested in a story. However, just to cover what you get for your 25 quid, which I will say I think is a tad expensive, and that's not to take anything away from the developer, it's just quite a lot of money. You get a big campaign with 3 distinct playable factions, and there's a few sub-factions in there as well, with loads of missions. There's also a full level editor, and also there's a skirmish mode, which is quite in-depth as well, so you do get quite a bit. Gameplay wise, it's very simple. You have your starter base, you build refineries, shipyards of varying sizes, resource nodes and defense, and that's about it. Everything is produced and built automatically. The only real control you have is by pressing tab. You can enter the waypoint mode and set waypoints for your units. So you know, if you want to flank an enemy, you can send some units a different way around to attack them. Each shipyard has multiple options, so all you do is click on the shipyard, then you can change what kind of unit is going to be built there. If you don't select the waypoint, then your unit will just go and attack the biggest enemy energy source, which is usually some sort of base or ship. As it's an auto battler, obviously it's very rock, paper, scissory, and this is no different. You know, you need to try and work out what units will counteract what the enemy is sending over, and this is where the campaign and skirmish modes come in handy. You know, you have to learn all the different types of units and what each one of them does. However, the game is pretty good at telling you in the unit selection screen what that specific unit can do. The only other slight element you have control over is syncing what's being built and how it's being built. So what you can do is select yards and get them to all build at the same time, or build all the same type of unit. This means you can sync them, and then you can send units to attack, or you can send your whole base to attack at once, or however you want to play it. Touching on the battles, they can get massive with hundreds of units across the battlefield all going at it. It looks pretty good with lasers and explosions going off everywhere. The enemy AI is pretty good, to be fair, but they can build way quicker than I can, especially on hard mode. You really need to maximize your units and buildings and not sit around, otherwise you'll just get annihilated even in easier mode. It has that typical auto battler tug of war. You know, when you always feel like you're on the edge of victory, but within 1 second you can just be wiped out. In getting that slight upper hand, or just seeing a factory get destroyed that you've been after for ages, is really satisfying. Moving on to graphics and sound. Graphics wise, I would say it looks fairly decent. It's a bit dark at times, obviously it's set in space. Sometimes it's hard to tell certain things apart, but you know, for what it is, I think it looks pretty good. Sound wise, I wouldn't say it has much of an impact. The music wasn't great, and there's not much sound in the game, but for what there was, it was alright. But again, this is probably one of these games you might play for podcast on, or while you're doing something else on a different screen. So in conclusion, I would say this is a fantastic example of an auto battler idle game. It's exciting, it's well done, just the right amount of control and management to make it work, and the UI is easy to understand. There's also a pretty decent tutorial that teaches you everything you need to know. It's definitely up there with the best. You know, I do like space combat type games, so it was right up my alley. However, I think it should drop RTS from the Steam page. It's just not an RTS. And also 25 notes I think is a tad expensive. When I think of the best auto battlers I've played, you know, you've got, I never know how to pronounce this one, SNKRX, it's 2 quid. Super Auto Pets is free. Lupiero, 12 quid. And the closest one to this, which is Mecha Bellum, which came out I think last year, is 12 quid as well. And they're all fantastic games. I mean, you could get all 4 for just a few quid more. I'm not taking anything away from this game. I just think if it was a bit cheaper, more people would probably get into it and give it a go. But you know, 25 quid isn't cheap. Anyway, I think it's a great game, and it's definitely worth adding to your wish list if you want to wait for a sale, or just picking up now if you're really into your auto battler type games. Anyway guys, that's all I've got to say on this one. Catch us all later. Goodbye.